Hello, my name is Skip, and this is from the Fourth Row's review of The Maze Runner. Now, as The Maze Runner begins, we see a boy coming up an elevator shaft in like a caged elevator. He ends up in a grassy, wooded area with trees and grass and whatnot, but it's surrounded by concrete walls. Now, the boy's name is Thomas, and he's played by Dylan O'Brien. He has landed in a group of boys that have been coming up for months and years. About 3 years, every month a new boy comes up with some supplies and so forth. And they are surrounded by what is a maze. Now, the maze is a dangerous place where during the day the boys are able to run through the maze and try and study the walls and the different uh, directions the maze goes. But at night, the maze closes and nobody goes in the maze at night. Until Thomas decides he's going to be a little bit curious and he wants to know what's going on. He's the type that he has to have answers. And Will Poulter plays a boy named Gally, and he's kind of like the bully of the group. And he's like, no, we want to keep things the same, and we don't want to change things. Now, Thomas Ian Sangster is a friend of Thomas in the movie played by Dylan O'Brien. His character is Newt. Now, he kind of brings him along a little bit, brings Thomas along a little bit, and they start figuring some things out. Until one night where one boy gets stung in the middle of the day, and he comes after Thomas. And they're like, what's going on? This, that, and the other. So they put that boy in the maze by himself, and of course, he gets killed. Now, we don't find out through half the movie or so, but there are monsters, and they're called grievers, and they're in the maze, and they roam the maze. And this one boy who's a maze runner decides to take Thomas under his wing and take him into the maze, and they start running around. Now, this leads to a revelation and something that happens that they finally find some answers to why they're there and what's going on. Now, as a movie that's a suspense kind of a thriller, but also a science fiction story, I really like The Maze Runner. Um, the monsters are very scary. The maze is very realistic, and the things move, walls close. They have they have these metal walls. They're called blades. Like walls fall down. I mean, it is a very, very dangerous place. But somehow all these boys end up in this maze, and finally they end up with a girl in the maze. Now she doesn't, of course, just like all the boys, none of them know why they were there, and eventually they'll remember their names. So Thomas and her end up becoming friends. But I really think on the level of young fiction novels, this is one of the better ones that they've turned into a movie. I really enjoy the science fiction aspect of it, and the special effects in it were good. I like the acting by these boys. I'll tell you what, I will give The Maze Runner a see it. And if you like the teen novel movies like Divergent or The Hunger Games, I think you'll like this movie. And if you're just a fan of good science fiction, I think you'll also like this movie. It's got a lot going for it, in my opinion. I mean, you don't have to have a super complicated plot to make a good movie. And I think that's the point with this. The plot's not super complicated, but you know what's going on, and then the action takes over, and you're like into it that way. So this is Skip, and this has been From the Fourth Row's review of The Maze Runner.